Hey, I'm Bradley Sowash, and I am here today to spend some time with my friends and colleagues who are music teachers to show them some of the basics of how I use the iRealPro app to benefit and boost enthusiasm for my students' classes. So that background band is iRealPro at work. All right, so that was just a little bit of iRealPro. If you're just joining this, I'm Bradley Sowash, jazz pianist, composer, author, and educator specializing in improvisation. And today we're talking about how to teach using the iRealPro app. So what is the iRealPro app? Basically, it is a way to simulate a band playing behind you. Since people learn to play music, especially piano music, solo most of the time by themselves. Of course, it's valuable to play with small groups. The way I came up, playing in VFWs and little parties and weddings, and just struggling along as a not very good player, with playing with better players and picking up tips and working it all out. Well, that's not so available, especially now. And the iRealPro app comes pretty close to simulating the style that other musicians would play behind you. Of course, it lacks the interaction in an actual jazz setting or a rock band setting where improvisation is going on. You're going to have some enjoyment of playing together and kind of having a conversation. But it is just short of that sort of live adjustment. Boy, you're playing exciting, so will I, that kind of thing. And you just heard a little bit of that. So just first, a little bit of history of that. When I was working in New York City as a young jazz wannabe, I found that I needed to have a fake book. And if you're not familiar with fake books, there are a collection of lead sheets. Here is my illegal. I admit it, I bought contraband for the first and only time in my life. This was the book that you needed to have in New York City when I was making a living as a jazz player. And it's called The Real Book, which was kind of a joke because it's a fake book, a collection of lead sheets. And these are the tunes that very often jazz players were playing back then and still now. So I had to buy this from a kind of a shady, situation, because it was all made on a photocopy machine because it wasn't available. Nowadays, this is actually available. This very collection, Hal Leonard, I think, publishes it, and it's still called The Real Book. So iRealPro used to be iRealB, the app we're going to talk about today, standing for iRealBook. And I think it was even called iRealBook for a while, but there were some objections to that name, and so they changed it to iRealPro. The reason it was made is that it's essentially a jazz player's practice tool. However, you can use it to teach any style. I'm going to show you how to do that today. So if I were going to play the tunes in this book, as I just did a blues, it would be really nice to have that band behind me, and that's how you use it. So let's have a look at it. It works on multiple devices. We're talking about iRealPro. I want to be clear, I have no affiliation with the company at all. I am privileged that they made me a beta tester for their newest versions, just get my feedback, but I have no financial arrangement, and I have never met the people personally. I'm just sharing today because I find it to be a valuable teaching tool, and I use it in my own practice. One of the things that's cool about it, before we get into it, is it's available on all kinds of devices. Here it is on my iPhone. That might be backwards, I'm not sure. And then I have the same thing here on my iPad. And so it looks a little bit different, but it's the same thing. And then I'm going to show you today, for sharing purposes, the Mac computer version. I understand it's not available for PC. I'm going to show you the Mac computer version mostly because it's easier for me to screen share that with you the way I'm set up. Here's what you can do with it. You put a tune in like I was doing, and then it can sync with all your multiple devices. So whatever you put in there is all of a sudden on every device where you have the app installed. And then you can take a particular tune that you've put in. I'll show you how to do this, and you can change keys, you can change the tempo, you can change the style, which is so much fun. And you can share it with your students or your co-musicians. You can also change the mix to emphasize a certain instrument or to de-emphasize an instrument. So if you're playing a piano, you might want to remove the piano from the mix that it is generating. So let's take a little bit of a look at it. If you're just joining us, I'm Bradley Sowash, an improv specialist, jazz pianist, and educator. And we're talking today about iRealPro, and my favorite app. And we've just covered a little bit about how it works on multiple devices and some of the things it can do. I want to say that while it's developed originally as an app for jazz musicians to practice, it is not just for jazzers. And I'm going to give you an example of that right now, and then we'll see how it works. Let's imagine that you're learning for the first time the Bach minuet, and you're having a little trouble with it, perhaps. Right? I'm trying to simulate some problems. Okay, so I'm struggling along on purpose to show you, what might be going on. And as I search for those notes, I'm pausing. And especially pianists have a habit of building in pauses. I remember my dad, who learned to play piano, he was a good trumpet player at age 55, had this bouncing head thing you'll be familiar with if you're a piano teacher. Look at the music, look at the piano. Look at the music, piano. Right? And all those pauses, they end up getting programmed into your muscle memory. So that's so important, especially in jazz and pop styles and rhythmic styles like Baroque music, to keep it clipping along without the expressive things that might be in rubato playing and say like Chopin or whatever. A lot of music needs to be steady. And so the traditional way we do that is to play this, right? And I hated this thing as a kid. And even now we're not really friends. Right. Now I got off, and where's that beat? And we're fighting each other, and we all know that. And the metronome must be wrong because I know I was right, and I'm not going to throw it across the room, but I have wanted to, right? So people are so familiar with rock music and swing music and Latin and funk and all these wonderful styles. So what I did was I took this tune and made it for my students in iRealPro so we could practice with a band. Even though Bach probably didn't actually write any tunes for Rock Band. I think that's a legitimate historical guess. He would have enjoyed it, I feel, because of the rhythmic, compelling style. So let's take a look. I'm going to share it with you right now. This is iRealPro on my computer, how it looks. And I made a little tip of the month playlist here with the tunes in it already that I wanted to share with you. And so here is the Bach minuet. And just get this out of the way. I'm not sure if this picture is visible to you or not. And so here's those chords. I just went through the piece, I have it right here in front of me and tried to figure out if they were chorded, what they would be. So here's my minuet, which is public domain, so I can share it with you there. So what we did is we put this in iRealPro. Here it is, iRealPro. And it is in a style right now of pop rock music. I have the tempo set to 115. Of course, we could change that to whatever tempo we like. We could bring it down or up. Let's put it at 116 just for more conventionality. I have it set to play through 3 times, and it's in the key of G. And so when I built this, which we'll do in a minute, I made it in the key of G. And let's just see what it feels like to play with that. I'll put this down on my keyboard so you can kind of see that. All right. Notice I never play anything as exactly written. Not in my DNA. All right, now, having done that, we can dig into that a little bit and learn more about the chords. Let's just, play more of a chorded left hand. Now I've got chords going. Chord, chord, chord. I'm just playing triads in my left hand. That helps me understand the harmony. It will help me get out of a memory slip in a recital, and it also helps me integrate my music theory training with my piece. Now we can just have a little bit more fun with this and say, well, what would it be like if it were in common time instead of 3/4 time? And so I made one of those. Same chords, just change the key signature here to 4/4. Let's have a listen to that, how that rocks out a little bit more. So now, we're getting creative with it, which is going to really make us know it. Would I do this in the recital? Maybe, but it's up to you. And then just show you one other variation. We then put this in a minor key just to see what would happen. Wonder if Bach tried this. Maybe he did. And that's the wrong minuet, but you get the idea. And we can change keys and do all kinds of cool things with it. So what I'd like to do right now is walk you through how you would actually just make a piece as a teacher. And so if you're a music teacher of any instrument, you can do that. Let me just remind people of a couple of things. If you're just joining us, we're talking today about the iRealPro app. I'm Bradley Sowash, a jazz pianist and educator. And I'll also just encourage you to, if you could like this, share this, do all that kind of thing. Apparently, it helps get the word out. The more you comment, the more Facebook, tells other teachers about it. And I'm supposed to ask viewers to subscribe to live notifications by clicking the small downward-facing arrow in the top right-hand corner. And then turn on notifications. So if you want to participate in more tip of the months with me, I guess that's a good way to do it. So let's get back to it here. When you first open it, what you get is a whole bunch of jazz exercises, and you'll soon learn about that you can access thousands of tunes through an online forum that users upload their own tunes to. I would ask you to ignore all that at first. As a teacher, you're not going to need that. There's a sense of like, oh my God, there's 1,700 pop tunes here. There's 1,300 jazz songs. I'm going to download them all. First of all, you're going to be overwhelmed with your bloated library, and most of it you're never going to use. And secondly, I want you to realize that if you do decide to dive in to the online forum and download other users' chords, they can be very helpful. But I noticed a lot of them are loaded with mistakes and errors because they are just made by ordinary people. The app does not come with a library. It comes just with some standard jazz exercises. They're pretty advanced. If you're not a jazzer, you may not find them useful, at least not at first. So what you're going to do when you open it, rather, is begin to build your own tunes. I'm going to show you how to do that right now because I'd rather learn by seeing and doing than by explaining. I will say that all the kind of details about this you can find at iRealPro, the letter iRealPro.com/manual. They have all the details. So please don't use me as tech support after this. I don't want to become iRealPro's tech support guy. Rather, I want to show you how to teach with it. So the really fine details, I'm sure you can dig into their video and live tutorials. Video and written tutorials. So let's just say you're a teacher now, and we're gonna make a song together, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. Let me just move something around that's in the way on my screen. Okay, so there's two ways to do that. You can go to edit right here, and on the computer version, you can go to File and make a new song. Of course, they call pieces songs, even though they don't have words in them. By the way, the reason this is all legal is that it's not possible to copyright a chord progression. So since there's no melody and no lyrics, there's not copyrightable elements in these pieces. So let's just say that you open up a method book or current repertoire at any level, and you want to make a backing track for your student to practice with that's a lot more fun than a metronome. So how we would do that, and this is going to look a little bit different on the phone or the iPad, but you're going to find that edit button, and you're going to see right away, edit a song, duplicate a song. That can be helpful. Blank. Oh, I would probably want blank, you would think. Here's the thing. Don't do blank, because then you won't know where measure numbers go, and you're just find, or measure bar lines. You will find you're just kind of in over your head. It's really not that difficult. So we're going to do a new song. And I'm just going to, even though it's going to be much shorter than 48 measures, I'm going to select their template here of 48 measures. And we're going to do Twinkle, Twinkle. Let's just pretend that Twinkle, Twinkle is our tune at hand. And we're making this song from scratch. So I'm going to say, what's the name of the song? I have down here the sort of work piece. This whole business here, I'll move it around so you can see it. This is where you actually do the entering, and then it shows up here. And that is a confusing point for many. So you do the work here, and yet it shows here. That has to do with its birth as an app, not software. So we're going to enter the name of the song here, which is, I'll just call it Twinkle for short. We don't know the composer, so I'll say traditional. And it defaults, it says it's a medium swing style. So I'm going to do this more in a rock style, so I'll just write rock there. It's just for later to be able to find it in various ways. Here it says it's on the key of C major. Of course, I could change that to any key, but we're going to stick with C right now. And I'm going to start typing in my chords. So I'm going to do... all right, so let's just type those in. I'm going to go over here where it says regular chord, and I'm going to type the letter C. I don't have to worry about cap or anything else, and it shows up there. Da dee dee, here's an F, back to C. Yeah, some people make a G7 here. This can be a G7 or a C. I'm just going to use this harmony for now. Da dee da. Should we make it a G or a G7? Now we're G7. Why not? Zoodoo dee. All right, we could even get fancy and say that's the A section. So I went over here and I used a rehearsal mark right here, the A. And now we're going to put in the sort of the middle part, like a da-da in the sky. Right? Sometimes there's a fermata here, but we'll skip that. That happens twice, doesn't it? You know, it's because it happens twice. I'll show you a trick. We can just do that copy paste, grab all that, and we'll stick it here. We don't have to type that all out. So that's a nice little shortcut. Notice that I lost a bar line when I did that. It's happened sometimes. So I'll go over here and just stick it in. Here's the bar line. All right. There's a bar line here too. But this tune is, if you think about it, it plays the whole beginning again. So we could just grab the next couple of measures here and stick them in here. And now we have the ABA form. Let's go ahead and put the rehearsal marks on that. So right here where it's blinking, I'm working over here, but it's showing up over there. I'll put in the B. And since this is a repeat of A, we'll put another A there to help teach and understand form. I'll highlight all this and delete it, hitting the delete button. Didn't quite make it all. Notice how that's hanging out. Oh, what's that mean? I'm having trouble. The reason is it's looking for that final bar. So when you're done, reach over here and find your double bar. And notice that goes away and the tune is happy now. It's got all it needs. Let's just give that a save here. I'm going to call it Twinkle 3. I don't know, because I have other versions of Twinkle. I wanted to make sure it has a new file name. I'll hit save. And let's see if it works. I'm going to hit play. Fingers crossed. Twinkle, twinkle. Nah, look at that. It played right there. Why did it do that? Because I left it highlighted. So if I unhighlight that and try again, it should start from the beginning. 4, 1. There. Little star, how I wonder what you are. I'm doing it Willie Nelson style since I'm no singer. Okay, now, if you're just joining us, by the way, I'm Bradley Sowash, jazz piano player and educator specializing in improvisation. Today we're talking about iRealPro and how to use it with your teaching. So let's say that Twinkle Twinkle Little Star was in your method book. Of course, I selected that as a demo song because I don't have to deal with any publishing concerns. It's such a public domain tune. But you would, of course, analyze the chords and plug them in from your method book. Now we have a way to practice that is a lot more fun. Now, let's have some fun with it. Let's go ahead and put in a different style. So that was the pop rock style. When we go down here to the styles, you see 3 broad categories of jazz, Latin, and pop. So let's just select a different pop feel. Let's try how this would sound as a reggae tune. It's going to change the tempo quite a bit. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's really slow. So left hand's chording, and the right hand's on the melody, right? That was kind of fun. And I learned a little bit about how that style works. Let's try another pop tune here. There's so many choices. Let's just see what it would sound like if it were a country tune. So we put in country, and it looks like it's kind of fast, 180. We'll go with it. 2, ready, and. So it has that Nashville train beat. And that's now let's just get to a whole new genre. Let's just try this as a jazz tune. We'll just try it as a nice easy swing here. And I went to jazz, and then I'm going to select medium swing. Here it is, medium swing. Let's see how that would sound. Maybe I'm learning to walk a bass with that. 3, 4. And I'm also playing some right hand hang chords, something I teach in my online jazz piano classes, live and interactive. So you get the idea. And I'll just do one more, show you an example of a Latin version, or we might even have a blues version. The blues genre is an add-on. That's an in-app purchase. Let's do it as a bossa. That whole sound of the Sergio Mendes and Tijuana Brass and all the great bossa nova players. Now, I'm having some fun with these styles. We could just put those styles under the written music and play the music straightforward as long as it was the same time signature. But to really know a piece, you want to transpose it. So we've changed style, so we can change tempo. That's pretty obvious. I don't need to demonstrate that, but let's change the key. So this is really cool. If we go over here to the key of C, whoops, I need to close this first. And we go over to the key of C and we select, I don't know, what do we want to do it in? Let's try D major. That's one whole step up. Oh, I can't think of all those chords. Well, it does the work for you. Check this out. I hit D here and everything is transposed and it plays back. Really nice. So we could play that in all 12 keys and so on and so forth. So you can see, how you can put this into, use any tune with it. And then you can actually have a little bit of fun with it. It's for harmony. I'll just show you one way I use it. Here's an assignment to reharmonize Twinkle with using secondary chords, not just primary chords 1, 4, and 5. So let's just hear how that sounds in kind of a straightforward way. I got a rock beat set on it. Here we go. So I have that E minor. That's not a primary chord. And neither is D minor or A minor. So we're using this as an example of using secondary chords to reharmonize a common tune. Now, I like to go through and help my students arrange, and we work on that. So I'll show you two other versions that I made before this class to get ready. Here we have a swing feel. Same tunes, I added some extra chords and some sevenths and sixths and things to give it a little bit more jazzy feel. Let's just have a listen to that. All right, so this is just a romp through a couple of tunes that on iRealPro. Go back to just my face here. If you're just joining us, I'm Bradley Sowash, and we're wrapping up a session on iRealPro, my favorite teaching app. I use it in my own practice every day. What you're going to want to do as a teacher is you're going to make those tracks, and then you're going to share them with your student. You think, well, I don't need to have my student buy an app. This app, I believe, is $12 or $14. I had made my backing tracks for students prior on a software called Band in a Box for PCs. And I continued to upgrade it and get the latest and the best. And it ended up being such a massive program that they actually sent it on a hard drive. And it got really expensive and got really fancy, and it was kind of tricky to learn. This is not as capable as the old Band in a Box, and it's not as capable as composing your own backtrack or recording your own backing track. But it is quick and easy and has quite an amazing bunch of capabilities for $14. Oh my God, it's just unbelievably cheap for what it can do. And so you ask your students that that's just part of their resources. They need to have that. The reason you want to do that is you can then email them the tracks you make, and they can open those up and play them in the full program or software or app, whatever you call it. If you would like to share it with a student who does not have access to devices that would play this, you can save as a MIDI file or as a WAV file, which is the audio files that are on CDs that can be converted. They use the word ripped to an MP3. So it is possible to share audio tracks with your students in another way, but I recommend that they work with the iRealPro app. Because I'm not really interested in having a massive video following, but I am interested in reaching a lot of teachers with free tips. Notice I have nothing for sale today. I'm promoting a product that I don't have anything to do with. So I'm just going to take it out as you go about your wonderful day and just have some fun playing to George Gershwin's rhythm changes, which are I Got Rhythm. And I'll go ahead and start that. I won't show you the app on this because then you miss my beautiful face. All right, so I'm going to start it out here in B flat, and then we're maybe I can tip the screen at some point and show you the rest of them. I'll let it get started here. So basically, I'm done. You can hang out and watch me jam if you want, but I would just say that I appreciate you being here. Let's show some fingers here. I know it's upside down. With all showing off. Wow! Let's get simple. Who says you have to play a lot of notes to be interesting? Lots of chord tones. Chromatic scale. Where is it going to end? I don't know. B flat. All right, let's just go back to my face a little because I think this is the last chorus. I'm playing rhythm changes, which is the chords to I Got Rhythm. I'm Bradley Sowash, jazz pianist, author, educator, and multitasker, because I'm playing at the same time D7. That's what I'm thinking. Here's that G7 around the circle of fifths. What notes am I playing underneath? Well, lots of chord tones and some fallback scales. All right, until next time, you enjoy your creative music making journey and be safe out there.